welcome back to my channel. This is Alex from Alex's Innovations. Today I'm going to be doing sort of a question and answer video with you guys. I asked you on Instagram to drop some topics that you wanted me to cover, just sort of as a question and answer. I didn't intend for it to be a question and answer, but a lot of you guys were asking questions that might lead to answers, hence question and answer. But I will just be discussing some of the topics that you guys chose. First, Leia.Friendship Bracelets asked, did you have any tips to your back hurts making bracelets? Get a good chair. I would definitely recommend that. I have one that is really nice. It has sort of like an arch, so it sort of arches your back, and then it's like a little padding. So you don't want to be leaning forward when making bracelets. You also don't want to be sitting straight up for hours on end. That can hurt. You want to be in a relaxed position. PDX.Joey asked, how do you choose your colors? This depends. I like to draw inspiration from nature. For example, I like to make a lot of sunset bracelets or sort of burst bracelets, starburst. I think we're all thinking of a starburst right now. I also, for the ones that I make colors based upon the LGBT flags, that is self-explanatory. I make them based off of the LGBT flags. But I sort of like choosing colors that look really nice together. I also like to see what you guys make on Instagram, and I'll sort of draw inspiration from those. Traveling.Nods asked, how good were you at making alphas the first time you made one? I tried to make one, but it sucks. I wasn't very good. Someone had the audacity to comment on one of my alphas, so wonky, barfing emoji, to which I replied, wibbly wobbly timey wimey. I guess they weren't wrong, it was just not very kind or polite to comment that on a creator's post. So I was definitely not very good at alphas, but I thought I was doing everything well, and then I realized that Claire and Masha had a technique called the flat alpha technique. I think Claire introduced it to me and I tried to follow it, but the video was in Russian, and then Masha translated it for all of us non-Russian speaking folks. And that really helped me, and now I feel much more confident in my ability to make alpha bracelets. Memes! Here's some of my favorite memes. Caitlin Victoria Prater, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, asks, favorite thing about making bracelets? Is going string shopping part of the bracelet making process? Because it's not knotting and it's not cutting string, but it's shopping, and who doesn't love shopping? And I did a whole vlog where I spent half of the video talking about how much I was looking forward to string shopping that day. Honestly, it's very, very fun. Fun date idea too. Maybe tips on creating an Etsy shop? Well, in terms of the actual creation, Etsy sort of walks you through that. It says, what do you want your shop to be named? What do you want your announcements to be? One thing that people ask me a lot is, how do you get sales on Etsy? And my two answers, one is, you have to have a good description, describe the bracelet, maybe say how long it took for you to make it. It gives it more of a personal touch, but be formal. Use capital letters, use punctuation, don't use emojis. Just don't. That's not professional. And then second is good photos. You want photos with a nice, clear, white background. It should be plain. The bracelet should be the thing that you're looking at. You shouldn't have to search it. And also, if you hold your phone far away from you, so the image is much smaller, then you should be able to clearly see that it's a bracelet. Remember, the images will be smaller when they're in the search results, so you want them to be clear. Then you could add more photos, but you want the first photo to be a little bit zoomed in on your Etsy page. Favorite books? Bookish Knots asked. Of course Bookish Knots is going to ask favorite books. Some of my favorite books that I've read this year include Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. It is about a war veteran named Billy Pilgrim who was in the bombing in Dresden, and he sort of takes his traumas from the war and he sort of forms this alternate universe with aliens named Trailfamadorians who look like little green toilet plungers with hands and an eye on top, and he sees it in the fourth dimension. So the book is sort of written in a non-linear manner. It's a little bit convoluted, so they have some nice YouTube videos that show like a linear timeline sort of as it progresses, but it's kind of like Breaking Bad, if you guys have seen that TV show, where they show flashbacks and flash forwards all throughout the series and you're kind of confused what's going on. But your best bet, that's a really good book that I really like. Another good book that I've read is Fahrenheit 451, which you've probably been forced to read in your English class. I know I was, and at first I was reluctant, as I'm sure you were, but it is such a good book, and the concept is so great. It's all about censorship of the government and how the government tries to create a utopia by limiting free speech, and that turns into a dystopia, which is a dysfunctional utopia. Another book that I like is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. If you can't tell, I like dystopias and science fiction. I'm a very math and sciencey person, but anyway, Brave New World is about a world where babies are genetically engineered to want certain things and desire certain things, and they're organized into social classes. It's like a caste system. So we have the alphas, the alpha plus, the beta minus, the epsilons and the deltas, and are sort of the lower castes, like sort of the blue collar workers, and so they're genetically engineered to be mentally challenged and to have sort of a slower mind with more simpler interests, so they feel that working in a factory doing a dull job is fulfilling. And so this is sort of contrasted when a savage enters the scene, and he's from a Native American reservation in New Mexico, and I think the rest of it is in London. I think it's in a fictional town in London. His name is John, but everyone calls him the Savage, although he's the one with the most advanced ideas, and his function as a character is sort of to juxtapose the supposed savagery of the non-civilized world, which is really the most civilized world, because they have religious rituals, they have faith, they believe in God, they believe in family with a mother and a father, they don't engineer their kids, and that is juxtaposed with the more civilized society of genetic engineering and governmental control, and an absence of faith or religion or human values, where it's for the good of everyone. It's sort of like a communist utopia a little bit, but it's really good, and I definitely recommend you read it. And finally, one more, is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and its sequel, The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. They're so good, and it's also a dystopia, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, but there's also a really interesting TV series on Hulu. I personally did not like it as much as I liked the books. The books were much better, and they were more descriptive, and I think the TV show was a little bit too... It just stretched it out too much. I just like it to be short and compact, although The Testaments was like this thick. Sarah Danny West Crafts asks, school? Question mark? Do you mean like how far along in school am I? Because I'm in 12th grade, or a senior, or the last grade before college. Like next year I go to college for you guys who are not in the United States. Do you mean school? As in, which school am I going to? Because that answer is, I don't know yet. Lemur Knots asks, maybe some tips and questions while making the bracelet. Netflix is a good bet. Also, I really like to listen to audiobooks. All of the books that I just suggested, with the exception of The Handmaid's Tale, because I read it a while ago, I read it with audiobooks while I made bracelets, and that actually helped me. I had to read them for a class, so I was sort of under time pressure, but also I'm very fidgety with my hands naturally, like I've been moving them all around this whole video. And so what I do is I make the bracelets while listening to the audiobook, and it really helps me to focus more, and I actually have the book open in front of me so I can follow along, but it's I'm sort of half reading and half listening. Like I can't do one, I have to do both of them, if that makes sense. Like C_baby asks, tip to knot faster/better. Practice! How to keep your bracelets more straight/even. You should have uniform knot tightness. I think that just comes from practice, but there's also a thing called the straight edge technique, which Masha has a very detailed tutorial on, so go check that out. But it basically involves adding an extra string to either side of your bracelet, and then only knotting around that string, not using that string to knot. So it sort of just acts as like sort of stabilizing threads that it does help your bracelet to look a lot nicer. Wyatt_Lenin asks how you're one of the best bracelet makers. Aw. Lily.put71 asks how to manage all of this remote learning. My teachers are just saying learn this chapter in 2 weeks. You can use the PowerPoint if you want. You can use your textbook if you want, do however you need to do. And then some of my other teachers gave me a 45-page document of poems that I have to read and analyze and write, outline an essay, a literary analysis essay, and I have to do 2 of those a day for 15 days. Plus I have to write a short essay per week on a short story, and I have to read my independent book. So there's that. 331 Jane Alice asks, how long have you been making bracelets? This is kind of a weird question, and I can't really give you a straight answer. I started making bracelets in summer camp when I was 7 or 8, but this would just be simple candy stripe or chevron or a Chinese staircase or very simplistic patterns. And then I started about 3 years ago making more complex patterns and exploring, because I go into this a lot more in I think it's my first question and answer video. The title has Nutella in it. I'll put the thumbnail right here. But I got into making bracelets because I was struggling with my mental health, and my hands were very fidgety. And so in order to stop my hands from fidgeting, and fidgeting I mean to the point where I was self-harming to deal with my mental state, so I was making bracelets in order to cope with that. So I'd be making bracelets in class and in school and at home, everywhere. And so I sort of expanded from the more simpler bracelets like diamonds and Aztecs to like really big ones, and you've seen the really big ones I've made. I made a bracelet collection video last week. go check that out. The link is in the description, but I'm really happy with where I am now. I just started getting better at alphas like a month or two ago, to the point where I feel confident enough to open up a custom alpha slot on my Etsy. So that's really cool. I'm glad with my progress. I'm kind of proud of myself, honestly, that I've come this far with my bracelets, and I'm also grateful to all you guys for supporting me. Nazi with 2 eyes. Clark asks how to embroider on a bracelet. It's like embroidering normally, but with like a much thicker cloth, I guess. I make bracelets really thick because I knot really tightly, and so they're like pretty chunky. So you should definitely use a thimble, because I've stabbed myself one too many times with my needle. But other than that, it's not much different than embroidering normally. I do recommend you embroider first on like a normal piece of cloth before transitioning to bracelets, which is something that I did not do. It took me like 2 hours to do that little dopamine molecule thing. Making earrings. It kind of depends. I like to get my charms from Etsy, or I will make them myself. Like with my circuit board earrings, I make them entirely myself. Like I harvest the circuit boards from the old keyboards or computers or calculators or remotes or any other electronic devices, and I cut them, drill holes in them, wash them, file them down, and then put them onto earrings. Satisfy is me says, hey, how are you? I'm good, how are you? Anna_I am 25 says LGBT. LilyX.025 says, how do you stay motivated to continue to make bracelets? My motivation is not linear, it's not constant, it fluctuates a lot. Right now I'm very motivated because I am home during my quarantine from this disease, and also I coincidentally got a lot of custom orders, and I'm really happy about that. Plus, I want to create a new series of one color gradient arrowheads. I'll describe it, I'll put a picture here if it's done, and if not, I'll just put a fun picture of my cat. Skill_not says, not with me videos and you talking. I'm talking! And you can check out my channel if you want to see videos of me doing time-lapse stuff. But I was thinking about doing that. My bracelet is right here. I'm working on a custom starburst. This is it so far. It has neon colors, so I'm not sure how well it's going to show up on camera. It seems like all my starbursts get neater, so I'm really happy with how this turned out. Marissa14288 asks, do you like to stick to a few patterns to make, or make a lot of different patterns for bracelets? Both, actually. I think I like to branch out, but in terms of making sales on Etsy, it's better to stick with a few patterns and then get a lot of sales that way. Plus it's easier because you don't have to keep photographing all of your bracelets. But I do like branching out, I won't lie. It's a lot of fun. Temostocles? I'm sorry. Coronavirus, or stuff that's happening in our world right now. Personally, and I say this very strongly, personally, I am not a scientist, I am not a doctor, I am not someone whose opinion you should take any more seriously than your own. I do not think that the outbreak is as serious as people are making it. The panic buying is causing other people to panic, which causes other people to panic, and it causes the economy to suffer. In terms of the actual disease, the only people who are at risk are infants, elderly people, and people with immune systems that are compromised. That's kind of it. Children and teenagers are actually more protected against it than adults and middle-aged and the majority of the population. We can, however, spread it, so it is important to stay inside, wash your hands. If you think you have any symptoms, like if you're coughing or sniffling, please stay home, be isolated. That's super duper important, because even if you don't exhibit symptoms, you can still transfer it to someone else who could transfer it to someone else who is susceptible to obtaining the virus. I don't think that it's going to necessarily cause the world to end, but I think it's something to take seriously. I don't think it's worth stressing out about. I think it just makes sense to have common sense, if that makes sense. So it's sort of a yes and no, which doesn't make sense either because you didn't ask me a yes or no question. But anyway, that's my opinion on the coronavirus. 1D fan forever, huzzah. Kumihimo bracelets. Anything about them, or just Kumihimo bracelets in general? I really like making them, but sometimes my knots aren't completely uniform. Like, I'll make half of it, put it down, and then come back and make half of it, and maybe I'll be like really angry or like really stressed out when I make it the second time, and then it will go from kind of wide to like really thin. That's an exaggeration. Please support my shop and buy stackable Kumihimos. I promise they're great, and they look really cute on whoever, and they're only $6 for 2 of them. So that's it, I think. Hopefully you enjoyed that little chat with me. Maybe if you were making bracelets while watching this. I hope that your bracelet's going well, and I wish you all the best with your future endeavors. And if you plan on starting an Etsy, feel free to comment down more questions, and maybe I'll do a separate video on tips for opening an Etsy shop. Or if you have your own tips, comment them down below. Thanks guys, bye. If you like this video and want to see more, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to keep the bracelets coming. Make sure you hit the bell that says all so you're notified for each one of my new videos. Also, please consider supporting me on Patreon. By contributing just a little bit each month, you can gain exclusive benefits like early access to my videos and bracelets shipped regularly to your front door. My Patreon is Alex's Innovations. The link is in the card and also in the description down below. I just want to give a shout out to my Patreon Simon. They're amazing, and thank you so much for supporting my channel. If you're not already, follow me on Instagram at Alex Innovations. I do polls and surveys there that I later feature in my videos, so by checking out my profile, you can help me make better videos. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.